Buonasera. I just came back from the next episode of my series of lectures about the national stereotypes, stereotypes about different nations, whereas they are true or not true, or might be partly true. And as usual, the students were naming some characteristics of the nation, this time about Italians, and we were discussing about it, and then I was forming the list about the positive characteristics, the negative ones, the drawbacks, and the controversial ones. I have dressed up as the Italian soldier from World War II, and as the Italian army had these helmets, because in 1915 they have changed front, and they decided to become the friends and allies of France. And that's why they have adopted also most of the Italian units in World War I adopted the Adrien, the typical French helmet. So about these stereotypes, as usual, the table was put with the positive and negative characteristics. I don't know if it's visible. Yes, now it's visible. Okay, so the students have thought that have presented and mentioned as the negative stereotypes that Italians are lazy, they are not happy working, that they are bad drivers, that they like to push some more money than it was from the tourists, for instance, to take some more money that it was in the contract and so on from tourists and so on. Also among negative stereotypes was also mafia and organized crime, that they smoke too much, that they are too noisy, and it was also that they rarely speak foreign languages, and that the towns and cities are dirty, and that they have invented the type of protests which is called the strike Italian type. Well, as to these negative stereotypes, if the Italians are really piggery, that is lazy, I'm not sure, because the Italians take pride sometimes from the anni 60, the 1970s, when they have this relatively small but significant epoch of having more GDP per capita than the West Germany and France had. It was called sorpasso, the overcoming, and so in this short period Italy had more GDP per person per capita than West Germany and France, and they are very fiercely proud of this period. Today Italy is a little bit after France and Great Britain, not to mention Germany, which is doing relatively well in the economic crisis. With Italy, it's more complicated because it's a southern economy which is concentrating on food and export within the European Union and on tourism, and all of those branches are to a huge extent endangered by the crisis. But of course Italy also produces cars and machinery which is more persistent in a crisis. So Italians they have the ethos of networking. They have this in the early modern period, in the 16th, 17th century. They had this subculture of I don't remember if they were called, I think, Lazzoni. In the southern Italy there were people who were just taking fruits from the streets, and they were living like kings, although they were really beggars. So they have both of those ethos. They have this ethos of hard work, of sorpasso, and they have this ethos of not working. They have a very huge and very strong antagonism between North and South. That comes from, it's not really a stereotype, because it comes from a very specific historical problem, when Italy was united in the 1860s by the Piedmont and the northern politicians. Most of the industry after the reunification, or unification really, because Italy was